and Valerie. Okay, we're all here. All right, so 7 p.m. We are gonna try to move smoothly with this meeting. We've had I've had long 3 days of conferences and meetings. I just finished my last meeting. So good so far. So I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. today, Tuesday, October 17, 2023. This is a virtual work session of Mayor and Council. Jared, can you please, I'm sorry, Luke, can you make sure Jared Stoffes?
Here.
Valerie Woodall?
I'm here.
Luke Chesek?
Here.
Danielle?
Here.
Okay. Seeing we have a full council, we could call this meeting to order. We are gonna do a review of the agenda. Luke, Melissa, can you move the agenda up just a little bit? Okay, and we do have our guests for ANC here as well. So you guys are going to be first on the agenda after we read it and approve it, okay? So we appreciate you guys being here as well as our presenters. Go ahead, Luke, go ahead and read the agenda, please.
Sure. 1, call to order. 2, review of the agenda. Mayor and Council will review the agenda, adding or deleting topics of interest. 3, discussion with the ANC Commissioners. Mayor and Council will have a discussion with the Commissioners from the area neighborhood committees. 4, presentation and discussion from the Toole Design Group on reducing the speed limit in the city. We'll have a presentation from Toole Design Group on reducing the speed limit in the city. 5, presentation and discussion on an ordinance reducing the speed limits in the city. Councilman Stoltzfus will make a presentation on that front. 6, presentation and discussion of Lawn Angels. Councilmember Carter will make a presentation introducing a program designed to help those in need of the community. 7, presentation on letter of support for MNC-PPC for FY24 budget. Councilmember Stoltzfus will present the letter in support of MNC-PPC for the FY24 budget. 8, presentation and discussion on the Trolley Trail extension opportunity. Councilmember Woodall will make a presentation on that front. 9, discussion on the Varnum Street Business District UMD Campus Community Connection Opportunity. Councilman Woodall will discuss a potential opportunity for UMD's Colvin Institute, a student capstone project that would study, plan, and develop strategies to enhance the Varnum Street Business District. 10, presentation of minutes. The city clerk will present the following minutes to the Mayor and Council: the September 19th, 2023 work session, the October 3rd, 2023 legislative session, and then 11, adjournment.
Thank you so much, Luke. Luke has, as Mayor, has read the agenda, and I apologize, my voice is going and coming, but it's been a long day for me. Is there anything you guys would like to remove or add to this agenda? Please let me know.
I just want to make clear that the discussion on the Varnum Street Business District, that's an addition to the agenda. So it's already been added, but it's in addition to the agenda.
Okay, so this is a follow-up, but yeah. All right, so thank you. So I guess it's officially valid. So seeing that we're in agreement with the agenda, thank you, Melissa. Okay, seeing we're all in agreement with the agenda, we're going to be moving on to discussion with ANC Commissioners. The Mayor and Council will have a discussion with the Commissioners for ANC, and I'm going to ask Council Member Jared Stoffes to take the floor on this one for me, please.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to thank Commissioner Gail Brevard and Commissioner Edward Borrego for taking the time out of their Tuesday night to meet us. So we have a lot of shared issues and challenges, things that we work on. We have economic development across our Rhode Island Avenue on our side versus yours. Shared street safety, public safety challenges. We've had a number of informal conversations, I think, and you all have come out to the Parker and Councilmember Parker, Councilmember Fisher's walk. But we've never kind of done actually a formal interaction where our council and ANC 5B01 and 5B07 have actually met. So I just wanted to provide an opportunity for us to all meet each other, for you to just kind of give a little bit of background in your engagement, and probably a little bit of time for us to have just comments on things that we might want to do or work together on or collaborate on across our shared state border. That's it. Selena, do you want to?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to cede you guys the floor. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you for joining us, not just for your meetings now, not joining us for our meetings. So we are really appreciate that. Go ahead. The floor is for either one of you guys.
Yeah. Why don't you start, Commissioner Brevard?
Okay, thank you. I'm Gail Brevard. I'm an ANC Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner, just starting my 8th year as a commissioner. And I've worked with Luke Chesick, Jimmy Tarlow, I don't know if he's still around, and Phil and Caroline Gonzalez regarding Eastern Avenue and making that a safer thoroughfare. And my area of responsibility on Eastern Avenue is from Randolph Street to Monroe Street. So we've worked together to get that area restriped, new crosswalks, and potholes filled. But it's still a work in progress because I wanted the road work to extend to Bladensburg Road. They stopped just before the DC Department of Public Works stopped just before the bridge. But that's it right now. Still trying to get that road work completed on Eastern Avenue. Thank you.
All right. I'm Commissioner Edward Borrego. This is my first term representing 5B01. So that picks up right north of Commissioner Brevard's area. So it goes from Randolph, or I believe it's Bunker Hill on the Mount Rainier side, all the way up. 5B01 actually goes all the way to Queens Chapel Road. So that whole length right there. In particular, I'm super interested in trying to work through a number of the challenges on Eastern Avenue concerning what appear to be like abandoned vehicles, lots of illegal dumping that occurs along that corridor in particular, and the challenges that stem from that. I think there's opportunities in the future, so that is right now serviced by the Metrobus G8. I know in WMATA's Better Bus initiative and some of their future envisioning, that would be a particular bus line that they would consider upping service on, which I think would benefit folks on both sides, especially since that helps to connect to metro stations. I'm just very interested in things that we can do to better connect the communities, as well as manage a number of the issues that are in Eastern. Also seeing if there are ways that we can incentivize the National Park Service to do something with Bernard Hill Park in particular, because that's a challenging issue in particular, since DC can only influence that so much. But if that's something of interest, getting additional voices to kind of elevate that certainly couldn't hurt. Beyond that, I actually, after you went through your agenda and hearing that Varnum Street is on there, I kind of want to stick around to hear what you guys are going to be discussing about that, because I think that would be really cool, and I think that is a big opportunity in particular for your area, because in terms of the commercial zoning around here, there's the small area with the Avondale shops that's in DC. There's the kind of commercial area that's right there on Varnum, which is in your community. And then there's some kind of distance for a lot of the people in 5B01 before you get to other commercial corridors, further off in Brookland and other places. So let me stop there. But I will note, I did do a walkthrough again on Eastern last week, and I put in a number of 311 requests. They have addressed some of them. They have not addressed others, but with Councilmember Parker's office's help, I believe we have gotten the DC DPW organization to realize that DC does indeed manage both sides of the street. So they were previously only abating things on one side. So that's a success.
So thank you both so much for being here tonight and for collaborating. Please, if you ever want, I'm happy to join you in a walk next time you're around so that we could continue collaborating. So let me know. I know I've been copying the emails, so my email's right there. So feel free to reach out. I'm going to open up the floor to Luke. Go ahead, Luke.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you, Gail and Edward, for just coming tonight and talking with us. I think one goal, I think, coming out of this meeting would be to establish kind of our next steps here. And Jarrett or Valerie might have some thoughts on that, but just making sure we leave here knowing like what are exactly our kind of our best next steps. And I don't know, I don't have an answer to that, but I think that would be a good goal over the next amount of time we have around this issue.
Thank you so much. So both Councilmember Stofes and Woodall have been in contact, communicating, passing information across to both of them. So that's been a very good support system. They are the councilors for the ward. So my job has basically been like stand back and support because you know, they've done a beautiful work. Valerie, since this is your ward, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the mic, and Gerald, give it back because I know you just did the introduction for me. But go ahead, Valerie.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to meet you, Gail and Edward. Thank you for being here. I think it's critical that we work kind of across state lines to make sure that, you know, especially with Varnum Street, making sure that it's cohesive. I think that's critical. I think also Randolph Road and Bunker Hill, obviously when they put the light in there, you know, it creates a lot more traffic coming safely across to Mount Rainier, which is good, but then it's also a lot more traffic that safely comes across the road. And so I think, you know, we've, Jarrett and I have had a number of conversations with the DDOT staff, and I know they're making some recommendations soon, I think, on what to do there. So I don't know if you're in the loop on those things, but we can loop you in. And I just think, you know, as soon as they come back with any plans or changes, I think we should get a big ribbon and stand across the street from each other and cut it together to really make sure that we're celebrating, making sure that these changes are happening. And so I think, I don't know, Jarrett, if you have, I'm sorry, if you have anything to add to that, but we've had a number of conversations with DC staff working through this, and, you know, we continue to push to make Eastern Avenue a better place. Edward, the last thing I'd say is that I definitely think we should work with the Park Service on the park there, because, you know, it could be more utilized for people to be there. And I think that's a critical place as well. So I'm eager to hear more about what you're doing there, but that's me. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jared. Go ahead.
Yeah, just want to thank both of you for the work you're doing on helping elevate the issues on bulk trash and abandoned vehicles, which is, I know, is an issue that plagues both of us, and for helping DC realize that Eastern Avenue, both sides are in fact in the District of Columbia. It's been frustrating to see. You know, I think DDOT and staff and DPW staff, at least in the offices, realize that, but in the field, we kind of keep on getting these bounce backs, but we can't actually legally take action in another state. So to like, you know, address some of the issues that need mitigation. So yeah, just echo, you know, DDOT's has mentioned the street safety plans and complete street plans, and that's really exciting to hear that we'll have that shared benefit. Edward and Gail, I just want to also mention we did, and I apologize, we sent this to Councilmember Parker's office, should have sent it to you as well. We provided comments on the Better Bus Plan, encouraging more bus service, the extension of the G8, you know, longer across our mutual. And we also provided feedback on the Blue Orange Silver Line study, which just the one that's would potentially three out of WMATA's 6 options for a future metro line involved service into Ward 5. You know, we just advocated obviously in support of more accessible transit in our community that would go through Ward 5, but also go through our general corridor, Route 1, Route 450, going up towards Hyattsville. So a shared benefit. I think in general, we've been very supportive of additional transit. Most of our population is working class renters, and in our apartments, 30-40% of households have no car. So transit access is particularly important. You may have seen one item down on the agenda, I'm introducing an ordinance to reduce our speed limit. So when folks go through DC, it's now 20. They can actually accelerate into our city because our speed limit is 25. I'm introducing an ordinance tonight to reduce our speed limit, but I think that actually may have some benefits for you all. Whereas people don't enter DC and your ANC districts going 25 when it's 20. So I think, if we end up passing this, and I hope we do, the things we're doing to lower speeding, and including speed limits, and we also have some street design and other projects that we're trying to work on that we'll be implementing that should lower speeds from folks, barreling through our city and then into your ANC sub-districts as well. So, and then, if there's any, we have our own we're incorporated city, we have our own police force. If there's additional engagement or information or things, a lot of times there's cross-border interactions, incidents, we can make sure to point you to or find ways to help you keep connected to things that may be occurring adjacent to your districts in our city or vice versa. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Jared, since you talked about a letter, can you make sure you send it out to both Gail and Edward so that way they're in the loop when it comes to the bus, but also if there's any dates that they need to be made aware in case they want to join in the support. But that way they're in the loop, seeing that we need to make sure we are cohesively as much as we can because we share so much space together. All right, perfect. Danielle?
Yes, thank you. Thank you both, Gail and Edward, for coming tonight. I'm also new. I just came on in May. So and I'm also in Ward 1, so I'm on the other side of Mount Rainier. So when I first came on, I was learning about the trash and the vehicles situation over there. And I've only been here for 4.5, 5 months now, and I'm really impressed to see, even though it's been a problem, how you guys are dedicated to work with us to try to rectify the problem. So I'm truly grateful for that. I do echo the bus. I could sit here and repeat what they've said because I've learned it from them. So I'm just going to let their words, Valerie and Jared's words, stand for themselves on the transportation issue. And I will just thank you guys again for coming, and I look forward to working with you both in the future.
Okay, so Gil and Edward, we're not going to keep you guys too long. You already heard about the bus. The other thing, when it comes to when we pass the speed regulation, we'll make sure to make you guys aware. If you guys could help us inform your community, because they're definitely going to be, if I put a speed camera there and they're getting caught up right there, I'm not going to be hating all that extra money. But in saying that, we'll send you guys the information once we pass it, so that way if you guys go help us alert your residents that across the border, the speed is the same. So that way we're able to keep both sides of the street safe. The other thing I know we have been talking and we've been pushing for, and if you guys could take a look into that, on the Eastern Light, if it could be a turning signal, because people are taking that line and they've been avoiding accidents barely. So that's on Eastern Rhode Island. The light belongs to you guys. Can you guys look into it, please? Because it is very dangerous for both of our residents, and we don't have jurisdiction to be able to do nothing much about it, but definitely will allow for safe passage from residents from one state to the other. As you can tell, we're very statehood apparently here. We're drawing lines, right? All right. So I want to say thank you. Please reach out if you need anything from us as well. If you have any legislation like that, like the ones we're passing by in our area, please let us know. So that way we can also inform our community, so that we continue building relationships. So this is a two-way street, very much so. So if you have any like that, let us know. We'll also share with them as well. Okay. And obviously ribbon cuttings and stuff like that, we'll send you guys invitations, and you guys are welcome to come and spend time with us, and vice versa, because we want to make sure we build a very positive neighborhood relationship. Okay. All right. Have a good night. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye. All right, perfect. All right. Thank you, Jared, for working on doing this, Valerie, as well. Let me see. presentation discussion from Toole Design on the speed limit in the city. The mayor and the mayor and council, what should be, the mayor and council will have a presentation from Toole Design Group on reducing the speed limit in the city. So I'm gonna tee it up to Toole Design so we could move along with this agenda, okay? Hello, Toole Design, it's always wonderful to see you.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I know you're probably used to talking to Dan Goodman, but today you get me. I'm Barbara Mosher. I work with Dan as our Director of Traffic Engineering. So this is kind of my wheelhouse, speed limits and all of that. So I've got a quick little presentation that I'll share my screen for.
Millie, can you give her screen share access, please?
Share screen. There we go. Okay. Okay, you're seeing that now?
We could see it.
Okay, fantastic. So this is a pretty quick, high-level presentation. I am happy to go into more detail on any parts of this if you'd like me to. I kept it pretty high level just because it's, I don't, you know, the results ended up being fairly straightforward. So hopefully this kind of gives you the basis that you need. So obviously you guys know that one of the recommendations that that we made in the overall safety study was considering lowering speed limits on city controlled roadways in order to, so I'm sort of going to talk through what are the requirements for studying speed limits, what the methodology we used, and then our data collection and results. In the state of Maryland, in order to change a speed limit from the statutory speeds, it requires an engineering and traffic investigation is the official wording used. So generally, that is not something that's like very firmly defined in any of our guidelines beyond what is generally understood to be a traffic engineering study. Maryland State Highway outlines it as a study that looks at various criteria on a given roadway, the roadway context, who are the users, what are the specific geometry characteristics of the road, what's the crash experience, and then what are the existing speeds on that roadway. But there's not specific guidelines given on how you go about applying all of those different criteria in terms of state regulations. The usual methodology that is used pretty widely is that we look at the 85th percentile speed. The speed limit is set within 5 miles an hour of that 85th percentile speed. 85th percentile being the speed at which 85% of people on the road are driving slower than that. And the speed limit is set within 5 miles an hour on either direction there, with engineering judgment applied to take into account all of these other criteria. The state does not mandate exactly how that engineering judgment is applied or which criteria is weighted in what way. The Federal Highway, some time ago, almost 20 years ago, I think, decided that, funded a research study through NCHRP to convene a panel of experts to try and formalize that process. The tool that they developed, which is now in its second iteration, is the US Limits 2 speed limit tool, which tries to take into account those context and various roadway criteria and formalizes that process so that there's like something you can replicate, something that is consistently applied across different things and is sort of easy to hold up as this is an expert derived tool for making these decisions, so that's something fairly defensible. Not a lot of judgment calls. For Mount Rainier, this is sort of the key part of the decision-making process. The user guide, so the US Limits 2 tool is an online tool where it's web-based and you enter all the roadway criteria and it will spit out a recommended speed limit based on the data that you give it. The underlying decision rules are outlined in the user guide. And this is sort of the key bit in the user guide that is particularly relevant for Mount Rainier. This is for roadways specifically that are in developed areas that are residential roadways. And it looks at whether there is high ped bike activity, which it defines as roads that have sidewalks on both sides, that have crosswalks, that have people walking and biking, high parking activity with parking available on both sides of the street, and at least 30% of the available space generally parked on a weekday, and high driveways per mile at over 60. Every single roadway in Mount Rainier, based on the desktop review that we did and the prior data we had from the overall safety study, means that every single road in Mount Rainier meets one of these criteria. So every single one of them ends up over here where the initial speed limit setting recommends using the closest speed limit to the 50th percentile as opposed to the 85th. And basically what that's saying is that all of our roadways have people walking, they have people biking, they have people trying to get in and out of their cars who are parked there. They have frequent driveways, and therefore it makes sense to have a lower speed limit than the 85th percentile. So generally that means that we're going to be looking at 50th percentile as an appropriate speed limit setting measurement. So from there, we conducted a data collection at 9 locations within the city to get a representative group of roadways. The locations that we looked at, we tried to cover so we looked at the criteria that are used in US Limits 2 to make sure that we had a couple of each sort of type of road. And then we also pulled out some that are particular outliers. So Arundel is much wider than a lot of the other city roads. 34th is obviously a more major road since it connects all the way through. And Buchanan is also quite a bit wider than a lot of the other roadways. So those were ones that we picked as sort of special cases, like worst cases, basically. And then the others, we just tried to get a variety of, north, south, east, west. Do they connect across Eastern? Don't they? To try and make sure that we would catch any variations in the data that we received. So at each of these locations, we collected speed data over a 48-hour period on a typical weekday during reasonable weather, I believe. And the general results are that our 50th percentile speeds are all well in the range of 20 miles an hour or well below. Our 85th percentile speeds are also generally in the range of 20 miles an hour. So even all of the extra criteria, extra context aside, most of these roadways, if you just looked at straight 85th percentile, would still be appropriate at 20 miles an hour, with the exception of Buchanan, which is not a huge shock to me, given the width. In addition, one of the other criteria that's specific, called out in the MUTC, the manual and uniform traffic control devices is the main guidance for traffic engineering across the country. It's sort of the traffic engineering Bible. One of the other criteria it calls out to consider in speed limit setting is the pace speed, which is the 10 mile an hour band, which contains most of the people driving. So for every single one of the places we collected data, 20 miles an hour falls within that band. So generally, the conclusion here is pretty straightforward, that given the existing context and the existing speeds in Mount Rainier, it would be appropriate to set the speed limit on, so obviously we only gathered data on 9 roads because there's a lot of roads and we wanted to try and make this not an enormous undertaking. But because the context is so consistent across the city, we did count specifically the ones that do not fall into this general pattern, but for the most part, city roadways are all very similar. They're all of basically the same context. It's reasonable to say that given the consistency in data here, that the same pattern would be held across all city controlled roadways, and that 20 mile an hour speed would be appropriate based on this traffic engineering study. So that's my general conclusion. I am happy to go into more detail on our data, on US Limits 2, on general speed limit setting. But yes, that's it for my presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go Jared, Luke, Valerie. Go ahead, Jared. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara. It's thanks for the background on U.S. limits too, and just kind of how you speed limit setting is done based on kind of the existing, not necessarily based on existing design, but also based on the sort of usage profile. So it's the context is really helpful. Brooks, can you go back to the map again?
Yep.
Okay. No, it's really really helpful. I think, you know, when I was looking at, we included the study in the agenda packet, so folks got a chance to look at it. It was kind of striking that the average, you know, the average driver stays at actually probably at or below what our proposed speed limit, but the 85th percentile sometimes is high. And then there was definitely some outliers where people were blowing through at unbelievable speeds. And I'm, you know, it's maybe only 1 in 10, but if 1 in 10 people is going 35 miles an hour, you know, that kind of that aligns with you know, what we're hearing certainly from residents about folks speeding. Obviously it's not everyone, but it's, you know, a clear but not insignificant minority when they're going that fast. Yeah, I guess I'm not surprised that I guess I actually thought speeds on Arundel might have been a little bit higher given the kind of built form, but
Same.
yeah, but Buchanan was actually, that was a surprise. I had, but I can see, you know, kind of all Queens Chapel people barreling down that one at very high speeds where, you know, the way you do that may be different from Arundel. You're coming from other slower residential streets.
Yeah.
So no, I just want to thank you for the thoroughness and background and, you know, just kind of laying out, you know, what you did in the practice and what you turned up and, you know, how you arrived to your recommendation. So I think that's it for now for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, Barbara, for doing this work on behalf of the city. I think a lot of residents, you know, myself included, sort of have that eye test as well, that the speed limits need to be reduced down to 20, and so helpful to see the data back it up so we can make the case that we need to do that across the city. And looking forward to the next item on the agenda to start the process of doing just that for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Valerie.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for working on this. I was surprised that the average daily traffic or travel numbers were pretty high. So even though people are not going super fast, there's a lot of there are a lot of cars on the road, and that, you know, it can add up, especially when you have 10 cars barreling down at 20 miles per hour. So, but thank you for the work on this, and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much for all this work. I'm echoing everything everybody else said. I was looking at the numbers you just put up there and saw Shepherd at 13 miles an hour. I live on Shepherd, and I was like, really? I don't see that, but I do appreciate your study. It's like the governor said today, you know, data speaks, and so all of your data, it makes a lot of sense, and I'm looking forward to doing whatever we can to get this passed and get traffic and speed in our city under control. Thank you.
So Barbara, thank you so much for putting the data, and also please thank the whole entire Toole design thing. I think partly also that I feel that those numbers are probably even higher because sometimes when people see the strip in the floor, they tend to slow down a little bit because they're not sure what it is. So I could definitely feel like some of those numbers could be up a little bit more. Just based on that. I know it because I saw the strips, so I know what they are. But in saying that, I think that this is what we needed. We've been having this conversation for quite a bit of time. And we need to get to that stage to be able to like work on the resolution and move forward with it. So again, please thank the whole entire team for the way they've done and how much dedication they had towards our community and our city. I think that you guys know our city very well, and our community very well. So when we have studies like this, it's easier, more effective for you guys to know based on the information. You walk the whole entire street like 5 years ago, every single part of the city, and then you have come back and help us with the other project, and now this one. So please extend our thank you. And although we're used to seeing Dan, we're very happy to see you too, Barbara. Okay, come more often, okay? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah.
can we get status back, please? Melly, you got it? Thank you, Melly. Thank you, Barbara. All right, moving on to the next item, presentation and discussion on ordinance reduction the speed limit in the city. Mayor and Council Member Jared Stoffels will make a presentation on ordinance to reduce the speed limit in the city. Jared, go ahead and take the chunk of this, okay, as I continue to rest my voice just a little bit, okay?
Absolutely. So just kind of walk through the presentation, then I can go through the ordinance, which is very straightforward. So just kind of, going off what Barbara said earlier, I'm introducing an ordinance to amend Chapter 13 of the Mount Rainier's Code, which is called Traffic, to alter certain speed limits on city roads. She mentioned Maryland Transportation Code allows local authority to alter speed limits for highways under its jurisdiction. We've carried out a traffic speed study as required. Reasonable new threshold be based on 20 miles an hour. That was based on obviously the study that was done. It's also based on what other cities, both around the country and actually in our region, including District of Columbia, are doing. It's safer for pedestrians, for bicyclists, and other users of our streets, for those especially for people accessing schools. So I just want to talk about kind of what we're leading up to, how we got here to this action and other things we're planning to do as part of this. So over the last year, for anyone coming to the meeting or attending for the first time, we carried out a comprehensive streets and sidewalk study to identify and design capital investments to improve street safety. We created a Vision Zero task force and passed a Vision Zero ordinance to adopt a goal of eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries in the city by 2040, consistent with other Vision Zero goals in the region. We allocated largest amount in the city budget in history to street and sidewalk improvement projects, including to make streets safer. And we applied for USDOT's Safe Streets for All program. It's a new program that was passed just very recently in the infrastructure bill. It's specifically designed to fund street safety projects and that we can directly apply for. Before the infrastructure bill passed, there was actually no federal program and very few resources at the state that we could use to really make the investments that we needed. So here's the steps that we're thinking about taking. The first is reducing the speed limit within the city. So as I mentioned, we're lowering the speed limit from 25 to 20 within Mount Rainier city limits. This would affect all local roads under city control. It would not affect non-city roads, which unfortunately we don't have direct power over. So Rhode Island Avenue. So if folks know that road, it bisects our city. It's actually under State Highway Administration control. At this current time, we cannot lower the speed on that road. There is some legislation potentially pending at the state this year in the next session that may change that. At this point, we can't change it. Eastern Avenue, as mentioned, if you're here for the last item, that's part of the District Department of it's in DC under DDOT's control. And then at the northern end of the city, which a lot of our streets, 30th, Buchanan, and others connect to, Queens Chapel, it's an SHA road, a state road. It's in unincorporated Prince George's County, so unfortunately, same dynamic. We can't change the speed there. So, as Barbara noted, the majority of drivers are at or below the speed limit, including possibly the new speed limit. But we would lower the speed that the fastest drivers have used. Again, if anyone's looking at the data on this, the very top end, top 15%, or some of the outlier cases, folks were driving really fast. So these are, I want to be clear for anyone watching this. Reducing the speed limit, it's one of several things we need to do. So I want to be clear that we understand that lowering the speed limit is not the solution, is not the only solution to addressing speeding in the city. There's what we need to do is we'll need to be able to improve some of the street design things that we're talking about doing. We're going to be doing within the next year within our existing budget, and a whole host of projects that Toole Design Group has been building as part of a program of projects that if we win Safe Streets for All, we're going to be able to invest in over a 5-year period of capital projects to improve streets across the city. So just again, I want to say that we understand that just lowering the speed limit's not a panacea. It's one of several things that we need to do and be able to do. And we'll find that out in December. So for folks that are just kind of wondering why this came about, the small speed limits differences make a really big difference in terms of impact or industry. So, if you look at the difference here between 20 miles, 30 miles an hour, and 40 miles an hour, a pedestrian hit at 20 miles an hour, 9 out of 10 survive. If you go to 30, 5 out of 10. If you go to 40, 1 out of 10. So it's a really, really dramatic difference, even across 20 miles an hour, even 10 miles an hour, about how big that difference of 5 to 10 miles an hour makes. So anything we can do to bring down the top level, the top level speeding is going to be really impactful. And I just want to say this is particularly true. This graph is also helpful because the chance of dying is actually even worse if you're older. So if you see at 30 miles an hour, you may have a certain chance of dying. If you have a much higher chance of dying if you're older, because of you're more frail, you're more likely to have a fatal injury. Sorry, thank you. Just again, a background, DC reduced its speed limits. So actually what we're doing, we would be aligning our speed limit with DC's neighborhood limit. So right now, if you're driving from DC, you're now required to go 20 miles an hour on the neighborhood roads that connect to us. And then if you enter our city, you can actually speed up. And then conversely, if you're in our city, you're actually speeding when you enter the district. So this would synchronize our speed limit with our neighboring cities, DC, are on local roads with their speed on their local roads. Other cities have done this too, and I just want to show folks, DC's not in a vacuum here. Mount Rainier is not in a vacuum. Seattle did this 30 to 25 on arterial, 25 to 20. There was 7% drops in the odds of injury crash, and in the city center, and where they lowered it on higher roads, 20% reduction as well. So that's not insignificant drop in the injury or death rate in their city network. All right, just gonna run through some other cities so folks know. Long Beach did this, Norfolk, Virginia did this, Salt Lake City has done this, Denver's done this, City of Madison, Wisconsin, St. Paul, Minneapolis. We are, certainly one of the earlier cities in the DC region. Besides DC, we're not alone in thinking that this is a great idea. It's been done across the U.S. In our region as well. So actually, Falls Church did this in late 2022. In early 2023, Leesburg, Virginia, also did it, and it's a historic downtown core area. That's the historic core, not the sort of suburban arterial part of Leesburg, but the historic downtown that has a very similar form and look to our city. All right, so next step's just going through the ordinance, reading the ordinance implementation. In terms of, we would need to replace our traffic signage, which we don't, which would just obviously involve new signs, and then a phased implementation of enforcement. And I can leave it to city manager or Chief Alston to kind of talk about how we might phase this in. And again, in the long term, this is part of a portfolio of things that we need to do. A lot of the money that we're investing in projects for next year, and also in that we're chasing grant money for, are going to be able to improve the built form of the city, help slow cars down. So folks, even people that want to speed are going to slow down because of the way our built form is. Things on the streets, bump outs, speed humps, etc. Things that are going to cause folks to need to slow down to the speed which they need to travel in a part of the city where folks are crossing the street, mid-block, and kids are walking to their friend's house, and folks are walking to, go get food or go to events or to parks, and, don't need people blowing through it 35, 40 miles an hour and causing injury or death. So that is all I have. Selena, do you want me to read through this now, or do you want me to kind of, okay.
Hold on 1 second. Put the agenda back on, Melissa, just for 1 second. So while the agenda goes up, Councilor Stuffers went through the various cities that are around, including here in Prince George's County, and they seem to be effective. And if you hear constantly, it's not the solution to all, but it's one step in a multiple tool solutions. This is something that I know when we did the tool design, one of the first studies is something that was recommended as part of the long list of recommendations that we worked with. So in some of the delay that took as more cities joined in doing this was also what the process was for us and be able to get what we needed to make it happen. All right. Okay. So you could put the resolution, the ordinance, sorry. So that is my feedback. The other thing is like to point out is like this also was heavily pushed when it came to both schools, addressing the issues when it comes to walking for the families and how safe they felt. Also, when we were talking about Rondo, they were very concerned about the speed being fast and, you know, kids walking to school. If we have community schools and the idea is to make them walkable, right? What we can do to continue providing safe passages for the students. So this is all part of that. So we definitely thank our PTOs for making sure that in the schools, make sure they've been vocal and supportive of this and the various community members. All right, so Jared, since your voice is more rested, I'll read the heading. You could read everything else. All right. This will be Ordinance 07-2023, amending Chapter 13 and quotes traffic of the Mount Rainier Code to alter certain speed limits on city roads. So before you start, we're going to make sure we put this information out on our website and what roads it does not apply, because we want to make sure that we tell you this ahead of time, because later on, I want nobody to say that you were not informed, it did not apply, or that we are creating speed traps through the whole entire city, because we have no control on it. We could definitely talk to our county council delegation for the few little thingies, few little tiny streets that might be able to qualify within our city, but the reality is like they usually work in bulk. I don't think they'll make an exception for one little strip of city to change the whole entire ruling, but definitely as the momentum carries, it will demonstrate a big need for this, for lowering the speed and other options that we could implement to make it walkable, bikeable, and safe streets. So Jared, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Whereas Maryland Transportation Code annotated section 25-102, subsection A, subsection 10 allows a local authority, such as the city of Mount Rainier, in the reasonable exercise of its police power, to alter speed limits for highways under its jurisdiction in accordance with Title 21, Section 21-803, and whereas based on its investigation of traffic conditions of the city council has determined that the conditions dangerous to vehicles and pedestrians exist in many city streets where the current speed limit is 25 miles an hour, due in part to a reduction of the speed limits in the District of Columbia on roads that pass into the city, in part to increasing traffic as area development intensifies, and in part to other sociological and other factors. And whereas based on the investigation, the city council has determined a reasonable and safe maximum speed on these roads is 20 miles per hour. And whereas the roads in question are located in an urban district, i.e. areas that includes a street and are built up with structure that are devoted to business, industry, or dwelling houses that are situated at intervals of less than 100 feet for a distance of at least 1/4 mile. And whereas the City Council has adopted Resolution 1-2023, creating the Safe Streets Task Force and directing creation of Vision Zero Safe Streets Plan, committing the city to make efforts to improve conditions on the roads within its jurisdiction in order to reduce accidents, injuries, and fatalities of people using the roads. And Section 1, now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of Mount Rainier, Maryland, that Chapter 13 traffic of the Mount Rainier Code be and hereby is amended to add Section 13-114 speed limits to read as follows. Section 13-114 speed limits. The maximum speed limit on all city roads having a posted limit of 25 miles an hour on September 30th, 2023 shall be 20 miles an hour beginning on January 1st, 2024. B. Appropriate signs shall be posted giving notice of the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit. Section 2. Be it further ordained by the Council of the City of Mount Rainier that this ordinance is adopted by the City of Mount Rainier this day, shall take effect on the later of its approval by the State Ethics Commission on this the day of 2023, provided that a fair summary has been read at the meeting and has been read at the meeting at which is introduced and adopted. The copy shall be posted at City Hall for at least 2 weeks after it becomes effective, and then a fair summary is published at least once in a newspaper having general circulation city, inclusive of the city's newsletter, mailed or otherwise delivered to every city household, and further provided that the mayor and council shall hold a public hearing on the ordinance at a meeting held not less than 14 days, nor more than 45 days after its adoption. Sorry, I keep on having trouble getting all the words out.
You're doing fine. So you guys, this is what Jared, we're not voting on anything tonight. This is just more for you guys to know what it is. This is in your package for you to for council to know what the resolution is going to be put forward. Jared, can you do me one more favor? Can you clarify when are you going to be putting, what agenda you're going to be putting this, and if it passes, when it will come in effect?
They introduced this, I guess, at the next leg session. Would that be in 2 weeks? And then
Yeah.
we would begin implementation in the new year. That would give staff enough time for the new, make sure we get the new speed limit signs and any additional signage that they need. And then also have an adequate notice and communication out to residents about the new speed limits and phased-in enforcement from the police.
So the next steps are putting this resolution forward, working with Mr. Kamali so he could work with the communication team, and what the next steps are for outreach and reaching out to our networks, which is like the schools as well, to make them aware of this change. And Councilmember Sofas did mention, like, implementation in January of next year. The public, something to add, Public Works Department already has done an inventory of all the signs, so they have that information as well. So there's plenty of information to move forward trying to get moving, and we need to make sure that the sign goes up and they have enough time to also put them and give a bit of time, very time for the residents to be accustomed to it. All right. So Valerie, I'm going to go to you first. Go ahead.
Jarrett, thank you for putting this together. The presentation I thought was good. The study backs it up, and I think I think this will be a good change for the city to help us with reducing pedestrian injury and making our roads safer well into the future. So thank you for putting this together. I don't have anything else to say.
Thank you. Luke?
Thanks, everyone. I just want to say that just really appreciative of getting this ordinance up in front of us so quickly since we finished the Vision Zero task force. This is one of those items that, we said we could get done. And I'm just really thankful that we've got such a great group together who can tackle bits and pieces of kind of that holistic plan of everything that we have to get done to make the city's streets safer. And we're not waiting until we get money to do anything. We're doing what we can now, including, I know Mr. Kamali looking at, what can we get done with respect to changing the design of our streets with money that we already have, so that we're not just sitting here waiting to see what the feds tell us about the funding that we're going to get. And this is a piece that we can do just on our own without any money. And so just appreciate all the work that goes into it, because you can't just make a speed limit 20 miles per hour. You have to do all the things that we heard of earlier tonight. And that took time and effort on the part of Jarrett and Toole Design. And that doesn't just happen automatically. So thank you, Jarrett.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. So wonderful for you to put all this together. Go ahead, Danielle.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you putting this together. I am all in favor of anything we can do to slow traffic and reduce the option, or to reduce accidents. I actually mentioned teasing with a resident about the speed limit dropping to 20, so we were looking at this and they were like, why? It's not like we're in a school zone. I was like, actually the entire city is basically a school zone. So, and it made them, it kind of made them step back and go, wow, I didn't really consider it that way. Got Thomaston on one end and we got Mount Rainier at the other. So even they were like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. So I think that even the community will see. Some may not like it at first, but they will eventually come on board and go, this is the better option for us. So thank you so much, Jared and Luke and Valerie and everything you guys did, getting the whole tool design done, and the community is going to be better off for it. So thanks so much.
Okay, go ahead and move to the next item, Melissa. presentation, this council on law angels. Councilor Carter will make a presentation, introduction of programs designed to help those in need in the community. Go ahead, Danielle.
Thank you. First, real quick, before I get started, I want to thank Jesse and Alma from Code, who actually seeded this idea when I was going through my orientation back in May. And then I want to thank Nakari, the social services coordinator, who saw the need for it as well. I also would be amiss if I didn't thank the many residents that I've spoken to about this while developing the idea and full plan. And I want to give a special shout out to Krista Clark and her husband for adding to the idea, including shoveling sidewalk snow. So I want to thank everybody who was involved in this. Lawn Angels, this is a really big thing for me. So I'm really excited I'm finally able to bring it to you. This little quote right here, I think says so much. The more loving we can be, the more powerful we become. Now, what do lawn angels do? Lawn angels mow yards and weed eat. They bag up yard waste and set it at the curb. They pull weeds, clean flower beds, help plant flowers or maintain existing. Other yard maintenance is willing and help shovel sidewalks after it snows. Aging in place. As our society continues to age, we are seeing more people choosing to age in place. Because of this, we have started seeing and will continue to see a larger need for people to find assistance when it comes to taking care of things like their yards and their sidewalks. Now, phase one, this is broken into 5 phases, so I'm going to break it all down. But phase one is what we really want to focus on right now, but I'm going to break it all down for you. Phase one is identifying residents in the city who have physical limitations that prevent them from taking care of their yards in a manner that keeps them from being cited by code for violations. It also includes recruiting volunteers in the community who are willing to assist these residents. This could be individuals, social groups, civic groups, high school students in need of service hours, churches, etc. Pairing up, then we would pair up volunteers with the residents based on a need availability criteria. Phase 2 is recruiting groups, committees, and residents around the community to help beautify our parks, streets, and public areas in and around the city. These areas would be parks, main thorough streets, common areas, and others that we would identify. This phase would be more like an adopt a highway program, but only on a local basis. Now, phase 3 would be, I put grant money in here, but it would be more like a small line item, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the money would be used to purchase 2 electric lawnmowers and 2 electric weed eaters to be available for loan to residents whose equipment may have broken, won't charge, is not working, was stolen, etc. These short-term loans would be for people for like 1 or 2 weeks at a time to give the residents time to get their current equipment fixed or replaced. Not everybody has the ability to just go out and put a brand new lawnmower on a credit card. So this kind of gives them a little buffer to, make it to payday or, whatever buffer they may need. Now, phase 4 is a little bit bigger, and this would, and I've got it in here, but it would be a very, very small grant or a very small line item. But the money would be used to assist residents who have equipment that has broken, been stolen, won't keep charge, etc., but also do not have the means to just go out and purchase a replacement, which would leave them in danger of being cited by code eventually. These short-term loans would be for like 2, 3, or 4 month periods so that the residents could pay them off without the need to take out a loan, put money on a credit card if they even have one available, or use money that would be needed otherwise to pay bills, afford necessities like groceries, medications, etc. The money for this program ideally would be found and placed in an account specifically for this use only, like a line item. If a grant is not fine, I would propose a line item of like $1,500 to be used each year on this fund for the program. I'm sure that there's details we could do. We could even put $1,500 earmarked under a contingency, if somebody comes forward with this need, because the need may not be on a continuous basis, but maybe once in a while. The goal with all of these programs is to keep residents from having citations accumulate in a world where even $30 fines can make the difference for medication or groceries to many Americans. And phase 5 is a big one. This one, I love this one. This is the at the end of the rainbow thing. Grant money, and this would be a large grant that we would have to find, would be used to do a buyback fashion thing in an effort to replace all gas-powered lawnmowers and weed eaters in the city with electric versions. Mount Rainier has committed itself to being a green community, and one large way to accomplish this goal is to reduce the use of lawn equipment used to keep our lawns and city beautiful. This program would be open to residents of Mount Rainier only, and proof of residency would be required. But this would be like for residents who have a gas-powered lawnmower. They could bring it in, trade it in. The grant money has paid for an electric. They trade it in, and now we've reduced more gas-powered equipment amongst the residents and encouraged more electric. Now, who would benefit? First, code compliance would benefit. They have records of those in the community who have the highest rates of citation. Because our code officers reach out and speak to these residents, they have a good idea of who in the community could benefit most from these programs to help reduce the number of citations and help residents feel good about their yards. Our residents would benefit. The ones who have physical limitations, whether these limitations are permanent or temporary, the elderly, frail, handicapped, temporarily handicapped, like shoulder replacement, those who may have respiratory problems, those who may be using a walker now. It could be a myriad. I mean, there are people 30 years old having shoulder replacement. They can't go out for a few weeks and mow their lawn because they're trying to recover. And then the volunteers would also benefit. Helping others has been proven to benefit your physical and mental health. It builds self-esteem, physical exercise in this case, and actually releases oxytocin, which boosts your mood and counteracts the effects of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So this program would benefit code compliance, the residents with a need, those who volunteer, and the community as a whole. Now, the steps for phase one would be identifying the residents, using code compliance and the police department social services coordinator for referrals. These are the people who know who those that are in need are going to be. Build a list of volunteers, locate the residents who are willing to help with the program, then open registration. And these would be residents who fit the criteria and could use some help, but code has not yet identified, and social services coordinator hasn't heard about them. They're not on the radar yet. And then we would match the volunteers and residents according to their availabilities and need. And to give you an idea what this might look like, in Girl Scouts, we used to have like adopt a grandparent. So, I mean, this would be a volunteer and a resident that over time they could build a rapport. If we have to switch out volunteers, we could do that as well. But it helps build community, it helps build unity, and it also helps the people who may be living alone and aging in place feel a little bit more like they're needed and wanted and desired in the community. So the financial phases and needs. Phase one, there really is no financial need unless we want to print flyers or have like printed out application forms. That's basically the only financial need we would have. Implementation, we could implement this immediately. There's no need to finance it, and it would affect the residents in the community. Phase two, there really is no financial need for that either. I'd like to implement it in spring of 2024. That would give us enough time to reach out to, the other groups, not just the green team, of course, the green team, but other groups like the churches, the social groups, the committees, the explorers and people like that, and get, groups together so that they can say, yeah, I want in on this. And there's no need for financing it, and it would benefit the parks and public areas in the city. Phase three, financial need would be there. And I'm thinking more of a fall 2024 goal with that, just to be realistic. It would either need a very, very small grant or a line item to do, because that would just be the purchase of 2 electric lawnmowers and 2 electric weed eaters. And that would benefit residents in the short term. Phase four would definitely need financial needs, and I'm thinking fall 2024 as well. Like I said, if we can't find a very small grant, then like a line item of $1,500 to purchase on an as needed basis. Like I said, it may be 2 years before somebody comes and goes, hey, I really need to, my lawnmower is broken and I have this problem, and can I purchase it every time if you guys are a part of this program? And this would benefit the residents on a more long-term basis. And then phase five, big old grant, because I have visions of replacing all of the gas powered lawnmowers and weed eaters in the city with electric. And I'm thinking, and this is probably a short goal, but spring of 2025, if we can find a grant large enough, and this would benefit Mount Rainier, the residents, and the environment completely. And then the steps for each phase phase one would be to advertise, work with code and the social services coordinator, build lists and group partners. Phase two would be advertise, work with public works and the green team, coordinate with groups and organizations to find volunteer groups and individuals. Phase 3 would be purchasing the electric lawnmowers and weed eaters, and I'm thinking ballpark 1,000 for all 4, and then develop a loan form and criteria, which of course we would work with legal on that. Phase 4 would also be developing the legal forms and procedures for residential purchases and grant. And again, we would work with legal on that. And then phase 5 would be to actually develop the overall buyback program and find a large grant, and of course work with legal on that as well. Then the areas of focus, where do we start? We do not have to wait for the implementation of any of the phase beyond phase 1 to start the program. Identifying the residents with a need and volunteers willing to be able to help can start immediately. Identifying the participants now will help us set up and be ready for the spring greening next year. And it will also help with identifying those willing to help shovel sidewalks in case we have a snowfall this year, fingers crossed. In summary, by helping those in our community who have physical limitations keep their yards up to code will do much more for them than save money and fines and fees. Having a nice yard can also do amazing things for people's self-esteem and self-worth, and everyone deserves that. Thank you all for your time.
Luke?
Thank you, Mayor. Danielle, I think this was really well done. Just a lot of work obviously was put into it. And I like the thought at a sort of a phased approach and building in time to sort of make sure we're doing the right steps here. And so I really applaud you on the work that went into this. If we could go back to it was I don't know what page it is here now. I'm looking at my packet. Go not that far back. No, you can go forward. There. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Melissa. So what I would say is I think I have a couple suggestions that I think would make this program easier to administer and sort of not duplicative of other efforts in the city, because I'm very, very cognizant of the limited capacity, both from a staff level and from a volunteer level. A lot of times you have the same people volunteering for different groups. And so there's sort of like a group of the same 20 volunteers we rely on in the city across a lot of stuff. And so trying to be mindful of that. So I think that, the phase 1 work about sort of identifying people, I think that's good work. And I think, yeah, that could probably get started as soon as possible. As soon as obviously there's buy-in, I think from the council on something like this. And I think that's a good list to kind of start. I think you're going to run into like some, well, I think that, you'll have to make sure the person themselves is okay with being somebody and all that stuff. I think the green team on, I don't think this effort should sort of, I don't think we should have another thing that does park cleanups. The green team does park cleanups. Sometimes the tree commission does park cleanups. I don't think there needs to be another thing to do park cleanups. I just think that's duplicative of the work that the green team already does. They've done such great work at the 37th Street Park. They've done such great work at the Food Forest. They've done such great work at Richardson Park. They've done such great work at the park there on Perry and 31st. And so they're always looking at the parks around the city and doing great work beautifying that. So I don't think we need like another group to do that. So I would almost kind of lose phase 2 there. I think phase 3, when we look at like getting equipment for folks to help, this is where I think there's a really good opportunity here for you to partner with, the city has a lot of equipment, and we have a tool shed where we have equipment that's not in use. And so I think there could be maybe a way to sort of combine this program with what we have going on with the tool shed and do like a rebranding of the tool shed and this program as like something to help residents. So sort of like your vision, knowing we already have all this equipment, maybe buying some new equipment, so that we can, you kind of know where my head's going at. But I think there's a way to like create some synergy there where we're you could touch base with the people who have worked with the tool shed And the green team hasn't had capacity to do that, and they've talked to the people at the tool shed. And so this could be a really opportunity where no one's really given thought to what are we going to do with the tool shed. Are we going to create something new? And there's just been tools getting rusty in the back of the bike co-op. So I think that's an opportunity there as you think through phase 3. And then we can sort of worry about phases 4 and 5 later. So I think that's my feedback. So I'd love to kind of see, maybe happy to work with you offline and bring this back, because I think you have something here that could be good for the city. Thanks.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. The tool shed definitely.
Hi, the mic belongs to the next person. Danielle, at the end, if you want to answer, go ahead and answer. But right now it's like I'm going through the console. Go ahead, Valerie, then Jared.
I agree generally with what Luke said. Thank you for bringing this up. I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that is definitely needed in the city, to have people that can work together on projects. I also think it could potentially, going forward, as you think through this a little bit more, we have the home repair program that was just announced, but throwing funds at people that can, you could actually think about ways to actually train people how to fix things at their house, through a program like this to some extent, potentially, and using, because I know there's funds out there for things like that. So, as you develop this program, just think a little bit more about, if we're partnering with people to mow the lawn, like, maybe reducing the size of their lawn and adding native plants for the native plant network, or teaching people about, you have a hole in the side of your house, like, how do you fix the foundation, things like this. That could be something that we look at as well. But I think that's all for me. Thank you for bringing this up, and I look forward to the next iteration.
Jared.
No, thanks, Danielle, for the time you spent on this, and engaging, talking to staff and talking to residents and pulling together, I think, a really kind of robust framework. So I really appreciate it. I think I just echo what Luke and Valerie said. I think they've covered most of the dynamics already. I think our tool shed's kind of been ups and downs, right, in terms of engagement. I think it's kind of a good opportunity to sort of revisit what we're doing with the community tool shed, and then kind of, as Luke mentioned, rebrand. I've always, I've always kind of had this, obviously very dedicated, y'all know what I do in my day job around climate change and reducing emissions, and I'm always kind of like, I've never been a big fan of trying to like regulate out leaf blowers just because the impact it, or other equipment, because of the impacts it places on code staff. So and some of the bigger fish to fry. So one thing I just and maybe just kind of think about on the buyback program. So a lot of one of my things, is when Valerie, when we put together the home repair program, and when we income capped it, right? So because a lot of times, a lot of incentive programs kind of flow to the households who already had the means and generally the will to do things. So I'm kind of in a favor, like, if we can find a way to, maybe if we're doing a buyback, we're targeting households that are in need first, and not just the folks that might just want a voucher to replace their equipment, unless I misunderstood something there. But and I think the other challenge is what we do about what the challenge, because a lot of actually the gas powered equipment is actually usually small businesses that are coming in and providing maybe like lawn care services, and that's at the apartments, for example, and those are actually ones that may be generating more emissions. And I'm kind of, I don't really have a decision here, but like, what do we do about the fact that like a lot of the emissions or stuff generated and impacts actually comes from, like third-party landscaping companies, but then often that are operated by very working class folks that have, electric may not work because they're not doing one lawn per day. They're doing many lawns in a single day. So I don't quite know what the answer is. And part of me kind of hopes that because DC's phased out gas powered leaf blowers in Montgomery County just did too, that maybe we'll just kind of get the side benefit. People are going to convert over anyways, but I don't know. So no answers there, just a thought. I don't have any guidance or direction or input, but that's something I was just thinking about. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. I would say the first problem we're going to do with phase one is that we don't have the staff to be able to do this. We are short in MRPD, and we're definitely short now in code as well. And right now I need to make sure code does best, which is like a lot of permit work that they need to do. So I think that that's your first challenge right there. The other thing when it comes to don't recreate the wheels, if this moves forward, right, it's going to have to go through the tool shed. And even then it's like finding where the equipment is going to be, because part of the problem that people were facing is that the tools where the tool shed was keep being broken and things went missing. So it's not a one-time buy. As far as the phase 3, the electric lawnmowers and stuff, one of them cost about $500, and that was 2 years ago when we got one for the community garden. So that budget's definitely nowhere near where it needs to be. And phase 4, legal forms, I think the legal forms should be established from phase 1 if this goes on, because we need to make sure legally we are protected and we're protecting the residents. Waivers need to be signed so that when somebody complains that their lawnmower got hurt, they broke something, the volunteers are not liable. So I would say, like, definitely talk to Alyssa when it comes to our liability. If somebody falls, gets hurt, or any of the above when it comes to this program, because if they're doing it through the city, we'll be liable for this. Also, when it comes to, I think the tuition, we might have to redo the applications to make sure we're able to sign off things. Some of the things that they were having problems with, like items being returned. And being kept maintained. So that's something that if this is something you guys are thinking of, like redoing the tool shed, that has to be put into work. In phase 5, the developer buyback, that's the same issues that former council member Scott Cecil was dealing with, was when we buy them back, even if we give a new one, what is the cost going to be to discard the old ones with gasoline? Because the city is going to have to be not liable for getting rid of that equipment. And because of what it is, you kind of just go drop it off at the dump because they're gas equipment, right? So that is something where Scott, they get stuck as well when it comes to what happens to the equipment. How does the city now safely gets rid of it? And what's the cost going to be associated with it? But I definitely think that any of this needs to be tied down with a financial need. If not, we are draining the resources of the city on potentially people that could do this on their own. So just like Valerie will see in her application is need-based. I think that's something that we need to make sure that we address, and it's just not open for everybody, especially if they have the need to be able to do this. Mr. Kamali, have a wonderful night, and thank you for being with us, okay? I'm thinking I'm holding out for just a little longer. If not, I'm going to also log out. All right, so that is a bit of, thank you for putting this together, but look into the various recommendations that the councils have stated. So that way you're able to fine tune whatever the next stage for this is. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you guys so much for all your feedback. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to working together and move this forward in one way or the other. Thank you guys.
All right, Melissa, thank you for the agenda. All right, Jared, go ahead and take it. And Luke, I might have to step out right before the trolley because I'm not doing too good. I had a meeting with the governor and I had a meeting with the House delegation today, aside from my duties in the conference. So I'm not doing too well right now. My voice is really bad. Go on.
Yep. Okay, next is presentation and letter of support for MNC-PPC, Councilman Stoltzfus.
Just want to present the letter of support. So folks, this was in the agenda packet. So basically MNC-PPC's budget for next fiscal year 2024-2025 is open for comment. So this is part of a longer sort of budget process for the net fiscal year starting July next year. And so I thought, this is a good opportunity both to just, provide input into MNC-PPC, who that's the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning, who basically covers not only planning and zoning for the city, but also administers the majority of parks and public space in the city. So if you're listening here, a lot of our parks, almost all of them are actually MNC-PPC Park and Planning's parks that they manage and they invest and they maintain, and not the cities. So I just this letter, since everyone in the packet, I won't go through and read it. I'll just talk about really highlights. Our letter just states obviously what park and planning does, their engagement on planning and zoning on the West Hyattsville sector plan. That's the development right outside the city. They preside over the Legacy Mixed Use Town Center. That's one of the 4 neighborhood level advisory committees that allows us to have kind of a voice on development activities in the urban core. Because as folks know, planning and zoning authority is actually delegated to the county, the city. Almost every single city has no voice in planning level activities. We have a special zone in our downtown that allows us to provide feedback as well. Again, we have several neighborhood block level parks within the city. The Mount Rainier Nature Center, that's actually one of only 3 nature centers in the entire county, which I didn't realize till I was putting this letter together. So we're very lucky to have this asset, teaching, learning, recreation in our community. We're appreciative about the effort that MNC-PPC has done with working with the city to promote inclusive spaces, including the 31st Street Park, which Mount Rainier turned into edible food for us. This is an amazing lift by Councilmember Chesick over the last several years. And then, as we're looking toward the budget for this next year, we wanted to kind of mention the following. And there's like two issues more broadly that we've had as challenges, I think, in our parks. It's one of them is the sort of maintenance and upkeep of our existing facilities. So, in a very broad level, this the budget for next year talks about staffing levels, et cetera, and then their capital improvement plans, and it's a list of spaces. And I think these are important. The one thing I want to say is, Mount Rainier, we're a dense, older community. We don't have a lot of actual existing other spaces available. In our city, park and planning, all the open space is actually almost all park and planning. We have tons of dense apartment complexes. The majority of our residents have no outdoor space at their that's dedicated at their apartments, and they rely heavily on the public space that park and planning provides. So, Rocio, who I don't think is on tonight, but Rocio, our Director of Public Works, has commented, many times, and we've all experienced this from residents, that park and planning needs to maintain the existing parts, like cut overgrown weeds, mulch when areas get muddy. There's a lot of issues with upkeep that we faced. We've also want to recommend that park and planning take opportunity to add additional features, new playground equipment. I know access for folks with disabilities has been a big issue, and we've only been able to get that in the past with active and consistent advocacy. Or park features that improve the usability of public spaces, recreation courts, seating, picnic areas that help activate a lot of our public space. Another issue has been kind of improving engagement with the Mount Rainier community. So we really want to take this moment to ask how that park and planning and improve its engagement with our city staff. A lot of times, staff, elected officials, community members, we've never been engaged when changes are contemplated or implemented. Park and planning, folks know this happened with 30th Street Park. They installed a ton of new impermeable surfaces, even after we've had dialogue with them about the flooding issues and other dynamics. So, having the opportunity to have more input with renovation and additions to our spaces that help park and planning staff understand how the space is used, but also the improvements that would kind of maximize this, the existing footprint of their existing facilities. So that's it. Nothing more to add. And also thanks to both Councilmember Carter and Councilmember Woodall for pointing out that I put the dash in the wrong place in the acronym. So it's M-NC-PPC. Actually, no, it's Maryland-National Capital Park and Planning. There's actually no dash in the acronym, and I will fix that in the letter. Thank you. Luke, do you want to? I think Selena.
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, thanks
I'm
for,
still
thanks
here.
for.
I'm just trying not to use my voice, but I guess I'm gonna pop in because you forgot you were leading the meeting.
I got
Um,
you.
I was
go
waiting for
ahead.
you, and I was going to delegate to Luke. So Luke, if you want to.
So we'll go with Danielle.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I'm all about getting them accountable and helping us. And I know when I saw Valerie post the pictures of the slab over in the 30th Street Park, I was like, and you guys were like, what happened? And it's like, oh, well, maybe we need a little work together. So thank you so much for putting this together. And yeah, the typo, it's not like I told you, that's a good way to get their attention. So thanks, Jared.
Okay, Valerie.
Yeah, Jarrett, thank you. I think this is an important letter to send. I know they're going through their budget processes right now, so sending this letter to remind them that we still exist and we're here and we need to have engagement with them is quite important. So thank you for putting this together. That's it.
Okay, Mayor, anything you want to add? Okay. Yeah, Jarrett, thank you for all this. I think we're all supportive, and so whatever steps we need to take to move this, let's get that done. Cool. Okay, next item on the agenda. Melissa, you are so fast and good with this. You deserve like an award. The trolley trail extension opportunity, we'll shoot it over to Valerie.
Yeah, thank you. So I put together just a little background document about the trolley trail. In 2016 and subsequently in 2018, the city of Hyattsville was able to get an extension of the trolley trail down to the Charles Armentrout Drive in Hyattsville, so that if Mount Rainier residents are looking at this, that's some of the construction you're seeing in Hyattsville is working on that. However, and now the work is almost complete. However, and even though it will connect to the regional trail network, and that's great, and it's exactly what we want to see, you're still kind of missing out on the rest of the Route 1 community in North Brentwood, and Mount Rainier. And so Jarrett and I have had a few conversations. I talked to folks at MML last summer about this. And so I put together just a background document. There's been some conversations. I think generally people are supportive. The State Highway Administration is looking into this potential. They have to do some feasibility and traffic studies to see what could happen if we were able to bring the trolley trail down to North Brentwood, and Mount Rainier. I just wanted to make sure that the community was aware that these conversations have started. There's nothing happening yet. I think this could be a boost though to our local economy to have a trail network that connects directly to our economy or our economic centers, instead of having us go all the way through the neighborhoods to get onto the other trail connections. So that's that. I don't know if you have any questions about that, or if you want to work through this. I'm happy to answer questions. I just wanted to make sure that the community knew that this is something that I was working on with Jarrett and others as well. One other thing, I will point out that I have talked with the Washington Area Bicycle Association, the Capital Trails Coalition, and the East Coast Greenway Alliance, and they've provided me with a bunch of information about how this is a section that they do want to see trails on at some point, but those are desires and not yet set in stone. So.
And Valerie, what are the next steps here for you, just so folks are aware what's happening next?
Yeah, so right now we are in a kind of a holding period. The state highways, they have to do a traffic and feasibility study to see what's possible, whether that is, adding a bike lane, or if it's just tightening the road a little bit and adding little symbols on the side of the road that say bikes can be here to go with the sign that says bikes can take the whole lane. And so that's the next step. I don't think we'll have an answer until probably 6, 7, 8, 9 months from now on that. So.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go to Jarrett.
No, just I'm really excited that Valerie's pushing this. I think when we had a call with SHA, we were both surprised to hear them be so open to the idea, and I'm really excited to potentially pull down the trolley trail. Is going to pull folks downtown, help bring more traffic through. Folks know that DC is building out up Rhode Island. Potentially told us they are considering protected bike lanes on Eastern Avenue. in the future too, and being able to, safely bring folks to our city, through our city, and also down from all the connections with the other trails is going to be fantastic. So super excited for this.
Great, thank you. Danielle?
Yeah, Valerie, I cheated. I got to ask questions about this morning on our way to the MML. So I got most of my questions answered, but I'm really excited to see what this looks like, what the idea is, and how it can continue into DC and connect DC with Mount Rainier. I mean, everybody knows that I've always said about foot traffic. More foot traffic brings more business, and more business brings more, revenue to Mount Rainier. So more bike traffic is also more foot traffic. So I'm really excited. And we're going to see more bikes in the future than we do cars. So I'm very, very excited to see this. Thanks, Valerie.
Thanks. And Danielle, I know I've already given you my input when you reached out to me individually. And so I just, will reiterate, it would be so great if they just made Rhode Island, 2 lanes of traffic all the way from Hyattsville, so that it's not just Hyattsville who gets to have a more walkable and bikeable and pedestrian friendly downtown area. It could be Brentwood, it could be Mount Rainier, and it would just allow for so much more green space and so much more of a pleasantness. You get that pleasantness when you're in Hyattsville, and one of the big reasons why is because there's not 4 lanes of traffic, there's 2 lanes of traffic and parking. So you have wide sidewalks, and it just feels better as a pedestrian there. And we could get that feel here in Mount Rainier as we're trying to create a vibrant downtown core. And so, push them hard on that because it would really do wonders, I think, for the entire corridor. So thank you. And Mayor, do you have anything you want to add here?
She left.
Oh, she left.
She
Okay.
dropped the call. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it there. We'll go to Valerie, you again on the Varnum Street Business District.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't, probably about a year and a half ago, when I first came on council, I had asked Andy Fellows from the Campus Community Connections entity to come down to City Council and present on what that entity can do for local communities. And so the Campus Community Connection group is in the iSchool, and basically they connect folks on campus with communities to do projects with students, to do capstone projects or other exploratory data projects, things that can help communities kind of tackle some of the bigger challenges they have. And so through that conversation and then continuing that conversation, I had asked him to come down. We did a site visit of Varnum Street, the Varnum Street Business District, which is down by Edward is still on the call. So it's right on the DC border between Eastern and kind of 24th Avenue or so. And so we worked together to talk about that project with the Colvin Institute. Andy Fellows had connected me with them. I put together like a draft kind of proposal on what this could look like. They're still going through, kind of looking through what they think they can deliver if we were to do this. But the idea is to have the Colvin Institute at the University of Maryland come through and do a capstone project that would start in the spring of 2024. And that project could study, plan, develop, economic development strategies, redevelopment strategies, placemaking opportunities, ways to make sure that the Varnum Street Business District connects also with transportation through, maybe bike lanes and other, pedestrian improvements that would make it connect to the Arundel Road projects as well. So that's the idea. There's not anything set in stone. I think the idea from now is from now until about the next, I think December 5th is the date that we're looking at bringing this to the city council for review. But ideally would start in the spring, and then we'd get a presentation next May or June about what they found. And we're still working through all those details, though. It could be a phased project where they do phase 1 in the spring and then phase 2 next fall to continue the work if they need to extend it, because it is a large project. So that's where that is. And I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware of what was going on there. So thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Danielle.
I love getting the colleges involved, the students involved, to use their new tools and knowledge to help with projects like this. I'm assuming, and this is my thing, I'm assuming this is going to be low cost to no cost to the city. Okay, that's what I thought. Actually, and I'm really excited that, you know, I love that this is in Ward 2 and that you're wanting to do something with this, because that is an area that really needs to be bumped up to it. It's almost like it's the ignored business district in Mount Rainier from everything I've always heard. So thanks a lot for putting that in the crosshairs and bringing or potentially bringing in students to help with it. Thanks.
Okay, Jarrett.
Sorry about that. No, just very much in support of this. Just echo everything Danielle said, Valerie. This is obviously it's our second business district, one that gets a lot less love. It has a ton of, it has a less of a regional focus. It is really important for folks on the northern side of the city, both in homes adjacent to it and also folks in all our apartment complexes, particularly Kaywood Gardens. So, and there's definitely some opportunities, a lot of space. It's the space where we have, I think, a lot of opportunity and potentially open, more open land to be able to do more things in the same amount of space that we have. So I really appreciate the work you're doing here, and again, bringing us no cost resources. It's always a great thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity. I always love partnering with the colleges. We have so much human capital that we can tap into for free. It's just really great. I would say here, one thing, Valerie, also to keep in mind is if we get, depending on how much money we get from the feds, that Varnum and Arundel street redesign could really be a catalyst here as well. So something for them to keep in mind as they think about uses. And I think the big need here, is somebody who could really engage with Kaywood and really get them to the table talking I think in the past, different elected officials have had different connections. I think we really need connection between our city manager and the K's or the real estate investment trust that owns them, so we can have some pretty a little more sophisticated and formal conversations between staff and them on what development could look like here. And the students at the Colvin Institute, that might be a good opportunity to start those conversations. And so that would be my just one recommendation to just keep in mind. All right. All right. Presentation of the minutes. Melissa can pull those up. This is a work session.
So the minutes are in your package. And so for you to review, if you have any changes, addition, just let me know, just send it to me, and it will be at the next legislative meeting for a vote.
Okay, great. So everyone take a look at that, get Melissa your edits, and then we'll vote to approve them at the legislative session. And I think that should bring us to the adjournment, and I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
A second.
Great. Before we do, Danielle, could you please withdraw your second?
I withdraw my second.
Withdraw my motion. Upcoming events, the Halloween parade and trunk or treat, October 28th, 2023, 4:30 to 8:30 at Thomas Stone Elementary, where they'll line up for the parade, and the Mount Rainier Nature Center. The police department is having its centennial anniversary gala. Our police department has been in existence for 100 years. That's a really big deal. And so November 3rd from 7 to 11 p.m. at Martin's Crossroads, we're going to have a big celebration for them. So let us know if anybody would like to join that. Our Veterans Day flag ceremony and brunch is November 10th in 2023. Selena has been doing this event for years, since it took it over from Melinda, who used to do it beforehand, 10 a.m. to noon in the police department community room. That's an event that's sort of growing. I remember when we first did it, it was smaller, and it's just kind of kept growing little by little, and just really kind of a neat event. Recommend folks to come join that if you want to pay respect to our veterans. And if you are a veteran in the community, please come out. City offices will be closed for Veterans Day on November 10th. Our Thanksgiving basket distribution will be November 21st, 2023 from the police department community room. Again, this is a legacy of Mayor Miles, and something that Selena has picked up as well to help. And I know we've gotten a lot of help from some of our committees in the city to help with a lot of this, and people really step up. So I would say email Mayor Benitez if you want to help figure out ways to get involved with this. We'll have our offices closed the days after Thanksgiving, 23rd and 24th. The Recreation Committee will do its Sweaty Sweater Fun Run on December 2nd. You can meet at Mount Rainier Elementary School at 8:30 a.m. And run in your favorite ugly sweater. So I can't wait to see Jarrett there in his ugly sweater running at 8:30. That. Breakfast and photo with Santa, December 9th at 10 a.m. At the Mount Rainier Nature Center. That's a very fun event where we'll have Chris Kringle come and have some toys for the kiddos and some treats and stuff. So if you want to bring your kids, December 9th, 2023, 10 a.m. at the Nature Center. The Recreation Committee Holiday Outreach Program will be December 16th at the Mount Rainier Nature Center. Our holiday basket distribution. So this is not the Thanksgiving basket distribution, but around Christmas time, we'll have December 15th, 2023, again in the Police Department Community Room. Offices will be closed on December 25th for Christmas. And I'll add one more thing, which is that the Green Team is doing certifications for residents to join the Native Plant Network. So we did some yard visits this weekend. If you are interested, you can shoot me an email at lchesick@mountrainiermd.org, and I can help you get certified. And now I will motion to adjourn the meeting.
And I will second it.
Anyone object? Hearing no objections, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, staff, for your wonderful work. Melissa, thank you for everything. Thank you, Mayor. I hope you feel better. Chief, for being here. Jared, for being here. Everybody else who decided to make this call, really appreciate it. And looking forward to, going to bed. Yeah, everyone.
Good night.